I told my mom my brother couldn't officiate my wedding. She smiled. Then said, we did more for you than him, so you OWUS. That's when I realized they weren't helping me. They were buying me. I just nodded and burned the guest list. I told my mom I didn't want my brother to officiate my wedding. That's how it started. That's the sentence that cracked open something dormant in her. Like I'd lobbed a rock into a wasp's nest we'd all been pretending wasn't there. She looked at me like I'd slapped her across the face with my engagement ring. Her eyes got that glassy fury they get when she wants to pretend she's calm, but you can hear her jaw clicking behind it. It wasn't even a fight at first. It was worse, it was that cold, calculated disappointment. She blinked slowly, like she was giving me time to correct myself. I just think, I said carefully, that I don't want my brother marrying us, because every time someone talks about the wedding, it'll be, oh, your brother married you. And it won't be about me. Not really. Her voice dropped half an octave. You're going to hurt his feelings. It was like I'd kicked a dog she never owned. A hypothetical Catholic golden retriever with her son's face on it. I said, he can have a role. Just maybe not that role. That's when her mouth did the thing. Tight in the middle, twitch at the corners, like she's trying not to laugh or cry or destroy me. And then I made it worse. I said we might not even have a full Catholic ceremony. My fiancé is Baptist. It'll be a Christian wedding, just maybe not with all the bells and wine. And maybe we'd skip the full mass and just do the ceremonial part. Out of respect. For him. You'd think I told her we were getting married by a clown in a Costco parking lot. She stood up. Not fast. Slowly. Like something inside her was rearranging itself. She walked into the kitchen without a word. I followed her. That's not what we do, she said to the sink. I said, it's not about what we do. It's about what we want. Then she turned around and said, I'm really disappointed in you. There it was. Like a family heirloom passed down from her mother to me. That sentence. Every version of it. I'm really disappointed in you. With the weight of years. With the subtle implication that she had hoped I'd be different. Better. Easier. I told her, you don't even ask me what I want. She said, because you always react. I said, because everything comes with a critique. Then we got into it. For real. She started listing everything they've ever done for me. Like pulling out receipts from a drawer labeled, you owe me, the car, the help moving, the money here and there, the holidays, the forced smiles, my brother's ordination. Did I forget how they made sure I was part of it? I don't want to be part of his things, I said. He's never wanted to be part of mine. She told me he worries about me, asks about me, every Friday, wonders if I'm okay. Then he can text me. Silence. She said, you're being cruel. I said, I'm being honest. And then she said something that I'll never forget. Something that didn't hit me until hours later, when I was trying to sleep but couldn't stop feeling like the air was too thick in my lungs. She said, we've done more for you than we ever did for him. And I realized, that was the price. That was the cost of everything. That's what the car and the favors and the emotional ransom notes were buying. They were buying the right to own my choices. They were buying my wedding, my silence, my future, my loyalty, and I wasn't selling. After she left that night, slammed the door so hard the picture frames on the hallway wall tilted. I just sat there for hours, staring at the living room rug. My fiancé came in around midnight, saw my face and didn't ask questions, just held my hand. This should be a happy time, I whispered, and I feel like I'm being punished for it. He nodded. I think he already knew. Here's the thing. I've been supporting myself for 3 years. I'm a sign language interpreter. I don't work 40 hours a week, but I make it work. I file taxes, pay rent. I've moved apartments without help. I've made decisions without asking permission. But every time I share something with my mom, it turns into an interrogation. At my birthday dinner last year, she asked if I was asking for a raise, if they were paying me to travel, like I'd committed the crime of not having a traditional paycheck, like I was playing house instead of living a life. So when Thanksgiving came and I brought my fiancé unannounced, it wasn't to be cruel. It was self-preservation. Because if I had told her, she would have made it about herself, about how we weren't doing things right, about how my aunt and uncle knew before she did. She brought that up during the fight, too. The aunt and the uncle, like she was betrayed, like I'd handed out state secrets. But I was done playing by her rules. And when I think back, really think, I realize this isn't about the wedding. It never was. It's about control. It's about narrative. It's about how she gets to look when she tells other people who her daughter is. And right now, she doesn't like the version of me that's standing up for herself. She wants the one who apologizes first, who hands her decisions in neat little gift-wrapped boxes for approval. But that version of me is gone. Update 1. I didn't talk to my mom for 5 days after the fight. She sent me 3 texts. One was a reminder that she still hadn't heard about the final wedding date. The second was a blurry photo of my brother holding a baby from church captioned, "He's going to make such a great family man." And the third was just a single sentence. "Have you thought about what we said?" Not what I said. Not how I felt. No mention of the things I told her in that kitchen about how it hurts to be steamrolled by your own family, about how tired I am of being managed like a liability. Just, "Have you thought about what we said?" As if she and my brother were a unified front and I was just some wayward branch they were trying to prune back into shape. I didn't answer. Instead, I called my brother. I needed to hear it. I needed to know if he actually wanted to officiate my wedding or if this was just another projection my mom had draped over him like a custom-tailored priest's robe. He picked up on the second ring. He sounded startled. "Hey," he said. "Everything okay?" That made me laugh. I hadn't called him in months. He thought I was calling about a death, probably. Or maybe he'd hoped for that. "I just wanted to talk," I said. "About the wedding." Silence. Then a slow, cautious, "Okay. I'm not having you officiate," I said. "I already told Mom, but I wanted you to hear it from me." More silence. Then he said, "You know that'll upset her." Like that was the first thing on the docket. Not his own feelings. Not mine. I said, "I'm not marrying her." He didn't argue. He just sighed. One of those long, priestly sighs that say more than words ever could. And then he said something I'm still unpacking. "I just want to make sure the family stays together." Like I was the one breaking it. Like not letting him perform the ceremony was the crack in the foundation, not the decades of guilt-laced manipulation or the way our mother treats me like a broken toy that still owes her joy. He said we could talk to Father Daniel. Maybe he could help mediate. I laughed again. It came out wrong, too loud, too brittle. "Is that your solution? Mediate my wedding with a priest? Are you trying to save my soul or just my RSVP count?" He didn't respond. "I'm not broken," I said. "I'm just done pretending this family isn't a performance." Then I hung up. He didn't call back. The next day, my mom posted a photo on Facebook. It was a throwback to my brother's ordination. I was in the background, blurry, holding a program, barely visible. The caption read, "So proud of the man you've become. You're a light in dark places." People commented with hearts and prayers and emojis. I wasn't tagged, but I felt tagged anyway. The guilt kicked in. Not because I did something wrong, but because I've been conditioned to believe that disappointing my mother is the worst sin a daughter can commit. I started second-guessing everything. Was I being selfish? Was I turning a happy occasion into a vendetta? Was I really so wrong for wanting my wedding to be about me and the man I love? I asked my fiancé. He didn't even let me finish the question. He said, "Do you want him officiating or not?" "No." Then that's the answer. Simple. Clear. Clean. But families don't run on clarity. They run on obligation. On subtle threats and unspoken debts. I told him I was scared they'd boycott the wedding. He said so. So? So I'd have to explain to people why my own family wasn't there. He said, "Let them not come. That's their choice. You're not taking anything from them." Then he pulled me close and said, "But they're trying to take this from you." And he was right. I started going through old texts from my mom. Not to torture myself, but to see the pattern. To name it. To drag it into the light. Any time I shared good news, there was always a but. Got a new interpreting job? But are they paying for mileage? Signed a lease? But are you sure you can afford it? Got engaged? But are you sure you're ready? It was all covered in a layer of maternal concern, but if you scraped that off, the rust underneath said, "You are not enough. You will never be enough. But you can try to make it up to us." So I did something I hadn't done in years. I wrote a letter. A real one. Not a text. Not an email. I folded it in thirds and mailed it. To my mom. I didn't beg. I didn't explain. I just said, "This is supposed to be a joyful time in my life. I'm getting married. To someone who sees me. Really sees me. And I want to build a life with him that isn't shaped by guilt and manipulation. I'm sorry if my boundaries feel like betrayal. But they're not. They're my attempt to survive this with my dignity intact. You are welcome to attend the wedding. But not to direct it. I hope you understand." She didn't respond. But she posted again. A photo of a white church with an empty altar. Caption, "There's still time to do the right thing." I didn't like it. I didn't comment. I just stared at it. Then I looked at the ring on my finger. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something sharp inside me dull a little. They don't get to dictate this chapter. Not anymore. But I've got a feeling they're not done trying. And I haven't even told you what happened when I tried to invite my cousin instead. Update 2. I invited my cousin Rebecca to the wedding. I didn't think it would be a big deal. She and I used to be close, closer than anyone in my immediate family, honestly. She's 2 years older, lives in Boston now, works in tech, and has this very dry, observant way of listening that makes you feel like you're not crazy. We'd lost touch a bit, but after the blow-up with my mom, I reached out. I didn't send a save the date. I sent a text that just said, "Would it mean anything to you if I said I wanted you at my wedding?" She responded instantly, "Yes." When and where? I started crying in a CVS parking lot. But then 3 days later, she backed out. Said she had a work thing. Said it had been scheduled for months. Said she was so sorry, truly. The language felt calculated. Like she'd rehearsed it. Like she was trying not to say something. So I called her. And after a long, strange pause, she said, I think you should know something. My stomach dropped. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until she said, your mom called me. I didn't say anything. She said there's a lot of tension right now and that you're not in a stable emotional state. She asked me not to come. Said it might make things worse. She paused. She made it sound like you were unwell. Like maybe you were having a breakdown. I said, and you believed her? No, she said without hesitation. That's why I'm calling you. But I also didn't know what the hell to do. I didn't want to make things worse. I said, she's already making it worse. All by herself. Then I asked the question that had been chewing a hole in my throat for weeks. Do you think I'm the problem? Another pause. And then Rebecca said, no. But I think your mom needs you to be. That sentence broke something in me. Because she was right. My mom needs me to be the difficult one. The rebel. The drama. The unstable daughter who doesn't return calls and makes impulsive decisions and lashes out when she feels unheard. Because if I'm that, then she gets to be the martyr. The long-suffering mother. The one who tried everything and just couldn't reach me. It's a perfect story. And she's been rehearsing it for years. Rebecca said, I'll try to make it work. But you should prepare yourself. She's not done. She wasn't. The next week, my fiancé's parents invited us over for dinner. It was warm, casual, just them and his sister. The food was incredible, homemade fried chicken and honey cornbread and a sweet tea that probably shaved a year off my life in sugar. At the end of the meal, his mom said, we got a strange call. I froze. She said, from your mother. I actually dropped my fork. She said she wanted to make sure we knew about the wedding situation. That there had been some spiritual confusion. That it might be more respectful to wait until things were clearer. She said that. I asked, barely able to speak. She also mentioned your brother. That he was willing to fly out and still do the ceremony. If we came together in the right spirit. I felt like I'd been dunked underwater. She called you. I repeated. His mom nodded. We told her politely that this is your wedding. And your decision. And we're here to support you. I didn't realize I was crying until his dad reached over and handed me a napkin. She's scared, his mom said gently. People like that, people who need to control everything, they get loud when they start losing their grip. That night, I lay awake next to my fiancé, staring at the ceiling. The wedding was 10 months away, but it felt like a war was already in progress. Not a loud, obvious war. A quiet one. A war of rumors and phone calls and sideways glances and strategically worded social media posts. And my brother? Silent. I texted him. Did you ask mom to call his parents? He didn't reply. So I texted again. Do you even care about how this is affecting me? Still nothing. So I called. Straight to voicemail. That silence hurt more than anything he could have said. Because it meant he'd made a choice. And it wasn't me. 2 days later, I got a Facebook notification. My mom had tagged me. The post was a photo collage, pictures of me and my brother as kids, me in a church pew, me holding a Bible at some family Christmas. The caption? Praying for healing. Praying for unity. Praying she finds her way back. Comments poured in. You're such a strong mom. Family is everything. She'll come around. God is good. No one asked what I wanted. No one asked if I was okay. They just accepted the story as given. I sat on the bathroom floor for an hour trying to figure out if I should respond. Trying to decide if silence was power or permission. Then my fiancé knocked on the door, handed me my phone, and said, come with me. He drove us to the venue we'd been looking at. It was quiet, empty, sunlit in that golden late afternoon way that makes everything feel possible. He took me by the shoulders and said, I don't care if it's your brother or a guy off Craigslist or a raccoon in a bow tie. Whoever marries us. It's about us. Not them. They don't get to stay. I nodded. But deep inside, a voice whispered, they already took so much. What if they take this too? He said, we can move the date. Change the location. Whatever makes it safer. But I don't want to run. I want to stand here. I want to walk down that aisle with my head high and my heart clear. But first, I have to survive the next part. Because there's something I haven't told you yet. My brother? He wasn't just asked to officiate. He was planning something else. Something bigger. Something I only found out about after a very strange email from our childhood family friend. Update 3. It was an email from Mrs. Elsner. That name probably doesn't mean anything to you, but in my world, she's mythic. The woman who babysat us during summer breaks. The one who always smelled like peppermint and had perfectly folded tea towels. She moved away when I was in high school, but she kept up with my mom through holiday cards and the occasional Facebook comment. So getting an email from her out of nowhere? Weird, but not impossible. Subject line, not my place, but I care about you. Inside, 2 paragraphs. The first was warm and familiar. She'd seen the engagement post, congratulations, wanted to say how proud she was, how lovely I looked, how grown up and happy. The second? Not so warm. She said my brother had reached out to her about hosting a special blessing the week before my wedding. Said it was meant to be a surprise spiritual gesture for me and my fiancé. A cleansing of the soul before marriage. And here's the worst part. He was planning it without telling me. She asked if I was okay with it because something about it didn't sit right with her. She said, I know your brother means well, but this felt orchestrated. My stomach dropped. Orchestrated. That's the word that snapped it all into place. My brother wasn't heard about being excluded from the wedding. He was trying to insert himself anyway under the banner of God, family, and moral correctness. I forwarded the email to my fiancé. He didn't reply. Just walked into the room holding his phone, eyes wide, and said, "Are they trying to stage an intervention?" It hit me like a cold slap. That's exactly what it was. A holy ambush. A staged act of spiritual concern, with him standing at the center basking in righteousness while I looked like the wayward daughter being rescued from my own adult choices. I felt sick. So I called him. Straight to voicemail again. So I tried Mom. She answered on the second ring. Chipper. Too chipper. "Hey, sweetie. Everything okay?" I didn't warm up. I didn't play along. "Were you going to tell me about this blessing thing?" A long pause. Then a careful, "Who told you?" That was all I needed. "You were really going to ambush me a week before my wedding? Invite people? Make it a public spectacle? What did you think was going to happen?" She didn't apologize. She said, "We just wanted to make sure your soul was at peace." I'm not dying. No, but you're walking into a covenant with a lot of division. That sentence, it lives in my spine now. Like a splinter. I hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did my fiancé. We sat at the kitchen table until 2 a.m. talking through every contingency. What if they showed up uninvited? What if someone tried to disrupt the ceremony? What if this blessing was just the opening act? He said, "You don't have to keep absorbing this. You don't have to play defense your whole life." I said, "I don't want to cut them out." He said, "Then you better learn how to win." So I did. The next morning I made some calls. Venue. Security. My maid of honor. The officiant we'd quietly chosen, a college professor of my fiancé's, someone kind and thoughtful and neutral. Then I wrote an email. Subject, regarding boundaries and expectations. I sent it to every member of my immediate family. I laid it out clean. There will be no unscheduled spiritual rituals. No surprise blessings. No impromptu sermons or prayers from the audience. If you want to be there, you are welcome. But if you cause disruption, you will be removed. I didn't even wait for responses. I hit send, then closed the laptop. It felt like lighting a fuse. My brother didn't reply. My mom posted a cryptic Facebook story, a photo of an open Bible with the words, "Many are invited, few are chosen." Classic. I was done engaging. But then something happened I didn't expect. My dad called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. He didn't ask how I was. Didn't mention the wedding. He said, "Your mom's not sleeping." I said, "That's not my responsibility. She's worried about losing the family. She should have thought of that before trying to hijack my wedding." He sighed. "Look, I don't agree with everything. But you're being really hard on her." That's when something snapped. I said, "She is not the victim here. She's not the one being gaslit by her own brother. She's not the one whose wedding is being treated like a faith rehabilitation center. She's not the one who has to worry every single day about whether her own family will show up just to make a scene." He went quiet. Then he said, "I guess I didn't realize it was that bad." And I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of course he didn't. Because silence always protects the loudest person in the room. I ended the call. No drama. No fight. Just, done. Now we're 3 months out. I've changed the password on everything: venue, florist, guest list site. My best friend is running point on RSVP confirmations. We have backup plans for backup plans. And still, there's this feeling. Like something's coming. Because people like my mom, they don't lose quietly. They wait. They plot. They choose moments. And if I know her like I think I do, she's not planning to make a scene at the wedding. She's planning to make it about her. One way or another. I've seen the signs. And I think I know what she's going to do. Update 4. The wedding happened. We made it. But not without blood. Not literal blood, but you know what I mean. The days leading up to it felt like watching weather reports for a tornado you know is coming. Clear skies, light breeze, but somewhere out there pressure building. I slept in tower increments. My fiancé and I stopped speaking in full sentences. We just looked at each other, nodded, whispered checklists like field medics in a war zone. And then, 3 days before the wedding, I got the call. From the venue. Someone had requested the ceremony schedule. Said they were with the family. Said they needed to confirm the order of events. The venue rep flagged it. Because the person claimed to be Reverend Matthew James. My brother's full name. She asked, should we be expecting a priest? I said no. She said, would you like to cancel all guest access to the rehearsal? Yes. I added him to the list. Blocked. 2 hours later, my mom texted me. Just 2 words. Please reconsider. I didn't answer. Because I already had. I'd reconsidered everything. My guest list. My peace. My own worth. The rehearsal dinner was small, safe. My fiancé's family showed up in coordinated outfits that made me cry for some reason. My maid of honor gave a toast so perfect it hurt. We laughed. We actually laughed. And then the wedding day came. Bright. Still. Early October. Leaves like fire in the trees. My dress zipped up without a fight. My makeup stayed on through the nerves. And for 3 solid hours it felt like the storm had passed. We stood at the altar, me and the man who never once flinched. Our officiant, calm and kind, spoke like he was guiding a boat across glass water. We said our vows. And then, right before the rings, right before the final pronouncement, a figure stood up. Back row. Right side. My mother. She stood and smiled. I remember the sound of people shifting in their seats. She didn't speak, didn't shout, didn't object. She just walked forward, slowly, reverently, like she belonged there. She held a white envelope, handed it to the officiant, then stepped back. No one moved. No one breathed. The officiant glanced at me. I nodded once. He opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, written in my brother's handwriting. A prayer of rededication. A sermon. A script. He wanted it read before we were pronounced. A final act of sanctification. One last stamp of ownership. The officiant didn't read it. He folded it in half, placed it under the podium, and said, "We'll proceed as planned." My mother sat back down, smiling. Not shamed. Not embarrassed. Satisfied. Like she just planted a seed in the middle of my ceremony. The rest of the day went on like nothing happened. Photos. Dancing. Cake. My husband, it still feels surreal to say that, gave a toast that made me want to marry him all over again. But that moment? It stayed with me. Haunted the corners of the room like a shadow only I could see. Later that night, after the last guests had left, after the heels came off and the dress was hung up, I found the letter again. Still folded. Still white. Still radiating poison. I didn't read it. I burned it. Right there in the fire pit behind the rental house. And as the paper curled and blackened, I felt a strange calm. Not relief. Not revenge. Just distance. Like I'd finally buried something I'd been carrying for too long. The next morning, my brother sent me a single text. "I was just trying to protect you." I didn't respond. Because what he was trying to protect wasn't me. It was the version of me they'd built in their heads. The obedient one. The grateful one. The one who saw her life as an extension of their sacrifices. But that version? She's gone. And this one, the one who didn't let her brother hijack her wedding, who didn't let her mother's performance infect the ceremony, who stood up in a white dress and said "I do" in full, unapologetic clarity? She's not going anywhere. A few final notes for those of you who followed the story all the way. Yes, we cut contact. Fully. Officially. No ambiguity. My husband and I are moving next month. New city. Clean slate. I left a letter of my own. For my mother. For my brother. Not to invite reconciliation. Just to say, you tried. You failed. I saw it all. I ended it with one line. You didn't lose a daughter. You lost control. Let that be your prayer. Let that be your legacy. I'm not sorry. And I'm not coming back.